two things are true at once. I think he wants a new contract. I think that his calf is also bothering him. The 49ers spent all this money on Deebo Samuel and then on Brandon Aiyuk, and then you had Jennings essentially outperform Aiyuk after that contract was signed. This is probably the most leverage that Jauan ever have. It's like this game of chicken, right? Who's gonna pull over to the side of the road first?
Let's get to the Niners because there's plenty of questions there too, and David Lombardi, SF Standard, kind enough to jump on with us here. David, thanks so much for coming on, man. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm ready to get out into Vegas. It's going to be a little bit hot, but I think practice is early there, so we'll be fine. And only one of the practices on Thursday. They don't do back-to-backs anymore because I guess there's too many fights on the second day, according to Kyle Shanahan. So you practice once with another team, and then you find another team to do another practice with.
Love it. Yeah, Vegas is where the next joint practices are coming as the Niners get ready for the Raiders. We've got a lot of questions about their plan for this week, but I want to start with where we sit right now. David, what is your read on the Jauan Jennings situation in total? What's going on here?
I think two things are true at once. I think that he wants a new contract. We've known that for a few weeks now, and I think that his calf is also bothering him. That's something that has popped up multiple times for Jauan, going actually back to last training camp where he missed a lot of camp and then came in at the end and then obviously delivered his career best season with those 975 receiving yards. So the NFL is complicated, especially since there are so many injuries across the league, and it just so happens that you've got a contract standoff and an injury that's pushing a player out of practice happening at the same time. Now, it's worth noting that early in camp when Jauan felt good enough, he was out in practice. So it's not like he's been out of practice the whole time, even when the injury wasn't an issue, right? And I think, just in the bigger picture, the 49ers spent all this money on Deebo Samuel and then on Brandon Aiyuk, and Aiyuk obviously is the most recent investment for them. That came after a long standoff last offseason. Then you had Jennings essentially outperform Aiyuk after that contract was signed, and it just puts everybody in a really difficult position. I can totally understand Jennings' point of view. He had about 1,000 receiving yards, and he's only scheduled to make $7.5 million. And beyond that, he's been just the ultimate soldier for the 49ers as far as blocking goes, just setting an example physically. He's been great. He's epitomized what they want at the receiver position. So you have his case on one side, but then you have the Niners who have been now squeezed financially by all the big contracts they've had to give out. They're number 3 in cash spending this year, even despite the fact that this was the belt-tightening year. So they cut a bunch of guys, but they also doubled down on their A-list players. And their philosophy is to pay the A-list players, but to be cost-efficient at other positions. And Jauan Jennings is in this really weird rock and a hard place because he is not an A-list player, but he's a very important one. And what do the 49ers do with a player like that financially? And I think that's what the question is right now. And maybe deadline pressure will push them closer to a resolution.
Your colleague Tim Kawakami was intimating in his article that the Niners just don't have the money and the two sides are fairly far apart. How much does the injury factor elsewhere in that room allow Jauan Jennings to have a little bit more leverage as this gets closer to the start of the year?
Yeah, so I think that this is probably the most leverage that Jauan will ever have. He's looking at the situation right now, and there are a lot of guys hurt. Ricky Pearsall's the only starting receiver who's available. As this does get closer to the season, if the problems still look like they're going to persist into week 1 and beyond, there's a lot in question right now, especially with somebody like Jordan Watkins, who's going to be out for about a month, and the season opener is about a month away. But if it's really starting to look like this is bad with week 1 approaching, then the 49ers will probably start sweating even a little bit more. But there's two sides to this too, right? Jauan, he's scheduled for free agency after this season. Free agency is the big cash cow here, right? That's what you want to get to. And he's got to play this year ahead of that free agency here to make sure that he maintains his option of cashing out. And it's like this game of chicken, right? Who's gonna pull over to the side of the road first? And generally, both sides take evasive action at some point close to the collision, so the two cars are heading toward each other, and the roster cut down might be one of those inflection points on August 26th.
David Lombardi, SF Standard, with us. David, let's talk to Marcus Robinson. I know Kyle Shanahan let everybody know yesterday that they're going through the appeals process on a forthcoming potential suspension. Do you expect that appeals process to be done before the year starts? How do you think that ball plays out?
I would think so. If they're already in the appeals process right now, Jordan Addison pled no contest to a DUI charge. I don't know if there was an appeals process with the NFL suspension for him, but the suspension did come down about a week ago. It was 3 games to start 2025. I think that we can expect something similar for DeMarcus Robinson. I don't know what would take the league so long that the 49ers couldn't find out before the roster cut down. I mean, at that point, it would be ridiculous. If everything's already been filed and Kyle Shanahan made it sound like the appeals process is ongoing, then you would think that the league here could adjudicate things in a timely fashion so that the 49ers can get on with things. But they expect there to be a suspension. I would expect it to be 3 games, maybe 2 games if somehow this appeal comes through and lessens it. But I think the standard punishment under the substance abuse policy for this no contest plea to a DUI is 3 games. So I would expect it to be about that long at the start of the season.
David, a lot of fans are concerned about the running back depth, and you all hope that Christian McCaffrey stays healthy. But if he happens to miss some time, right now looking at the running back room, who do they have who can really step up and maybe take on a share of the load?
Isaac Guerendo is currently not available, but he should be in a couple weeks. He has a shoulder issue, but he's running full speed off on the side, and he's doing cuts. He just can't take on contact with the shoulder. So he's the number 2. They're hoping that he can also recreate some of what Christian could do in the pass game. Christian today scored a touchdown with George Kittle blocking, and then he gave George the ball, and George threw it up in the air in his kind of signature celebration. Christian looked really good at practice today. I just thought of that one play out of the backfield because I realized that Isaac Guerendo is the 49ers' plan for another running back who can catch the ball, who can pressure defenses in that way. And then Patrick Taylor Jr. has shown that he's got a higher floor in years past. I think that he put in a lot of good work over the course of this offseason. There were some real issues, I thought, with him in the games where he started down the stretch last year. In the receiving game, there was the time when he ran the wrong route against Miami, and it almost turned into an interception. And as a check down, you just got to be reliable. And I think that he's been much more reliable over the course of this camp. The touchdown run the other day was nice. Pauno Hufanga, now Denver, plugged up the hole where that run was supposed to go, and Patrick Taylor showed some nice vision and bounced out and scored to the outside. So I think that's kind of your safe backup if, a lot of stuff goes wrong for the 49ers, but you might have more of a ceiling with Guerendo and then these 2 rookies, right? That they brought in Jordan James, who's he actually went to my wife's high school. That's kind of cool, out in the Nashville area for 2 years. But he's a really, really compact runner, and he's built a lot like Corey Kiner, who is the other rookie they brought in. They're both my comp for both of them is Devontae Freeman physically. They didn't blow anybody away with their physical measurements, but they run really hard, and they've got more burst when you watch them in person than their 40 time might suggest. That's exactly who Devontae Freeman was, and he was a great all-around back, and I think that the 49ers think they may have some real ceiling with Jordan James and Corey Kiner.
David, can we go back to receiver for a second? Because I think this is one thing fans are thinking right now. Like, long run, is this all going to work out? Yeah, probably. But let's go to week 1. And so Robinson, for sure, no. Watkins is now out with the high ankle, and he was a rookie anyway. Yeah, fingers crossed that Pearsall stays healthy. If Jauan Jennings' situation and or health is not set by week 1, who is playing wide receiver in Seattle?
Yeah, so Ricky Pearsall is obviously the center of attention, and you've got to hope that he stays healthy in case that's the code red scenario, right? That would be tough for the 49ers. But Pearsall has been practicing very well, and he would be the centerpiece in the code red situation. Then Jacob Cowing was back today. I think the 49ers' hope for Cowing was that he would be competing with Jordan Watkins for a number 3 or number 4 role this year, kind of the burner role on the offense. Well, Cowing would be fully thrust into that, assuming that Watkins wouldn't be available. And Jake had a really good offseason. They were happy with the strides he made. He had, unfortunately, strained his hamstring in warm-ups of practice number 1, so we didn't get to see him in team drills until today, and they're still easing him in. So it'd be Pearsall, Cowing, and Russell Gage would be the number 3, with Robbie Chosen probably having the inside track to be number 4 if the 49ers didn't sign anyone else. And they worked out a couple guys today. But Russell Gage, this is somebody that people should pay attention to because he was a good number 3 in Atlanta for a couple of years. He had 750-plus yards in 2 straight seasons, and then he tore his patellar tendon, and that almost caused him to retire. He's been out of game action for 2 years. The 49ers were lucky enough to get him onto their practice squad last year because he said, I'm going to give it one more shot. And he spent that end of the 2024 season getting back in shape, learning the 49ers playbook. And for about a week or 10 days to start this training camp, Russell Gage was leading the 49ers in receptions at camp. And Kyle said that it looks like he is back to being a good NFL player again. Like he's got some of that speed back. And, one of the things is we saw a guy like Isaiah Nair. They cut him. He's with the Packers now, who can run like the wind, 4'4", 6'4", 220. And everybody thought, okay, this is going to be the next receiver for the 49ers. I think that whole experiment really underscored the fact that it's not about your athleticism if you can't run routes, if you don't know the nuances of the game. And somebody like Russell Gage, even though he might be 29 years old now, coming off that knee injury 2 years ago, he has shown that he can succeed at this level, at that number 3 receiver spot with the craftiness that he has, and he knows the inside and outs of the position. I think that he really might be somebody who elevates the floor of the receiver room to help the 49ers through this real rough patch with all these injuries. So I definitely would look to him if they do hit that code red situation week 1 in Seattle.